blend. We will be practicing with a chair and only the chair. So we'll practice various exercises and postures using the chair in both the Pilates Contrology method as well as yoga practice. So let's come sitting in the chair. So once you're seated in your chair, just see if you can bring your sit bones right to the front edge of the seat, and preferably a chair without arms is best. And then that way we can use it in various ways. So when you come sitting with your sit bones right at the front edge of the seat, ask yourself, does this feel content, or do I feel content in this seated position with my sit bones at the front edge? And so contentment comes when there's equanimity. Contentment comes when we're not grasping or chasing external circumstances to find contentment. Contentment comes when we're present, when we're here now. So let yourself be here right now, feeling the two sit bones on the front edge of your seat. And I will take one hand to the seat pan and see if we can take the opposite arm up and just come into an easy side bend. And then try it on the other side. So just some lateral flexes or Ardha Chandrasans in the seated position. So you're holding on to the bottom edge of your seat pan and pulling up slightly to encourage the lateral flex or the side bend. And one more on each side. So I'm using fingertips, I'm just pulling up on that seat pan and then looking up at the opposite arm as I side bend and feel a little more weight going into the one sit bone versus the other. And one last time. So now we'll use both hands on the seat pan and see if you can, again, pull up on the back edge of the seat pan while you lift the sternum or lift the heart center. And start to notice that when you lift with your fingertips, you can start to feel the heart expanding, right? So this openness through the collarbones and this deep squeeze now between the shoulder blades. And then we'll do the opposite. We'll just come into a mini forward bending, letting the chin drop, letting the head drop. And then try it again. Inhale to look up. So you're pulling up with fingertips on that seat pan and just lifting the heart to feel that contraction between the shoulder blades, and now rolling forward, just letting the hands relax. And one last time, heart lift, squeezing those shoulder blades together while we pull up on the seat pan with our fingertips. Feel the collarbones go wide, right? So you're pulling your shoulders back and together. And now we'll do a little bit for the hands in a standing position. So as we come standing, I want you to find your anchor. So the anchor is imagining that you're button snapping pubic bone to tailbone, low belly to sacrum, and navel to lumbar spine, right? So I want you to imagine you have to go to the bathroom. There's no bathroom. So you're zipping up your pelvic floor in order to lift yourself out of your seat or out of the chair. And now we'll just come standing behind the chair. We'll just turn it and just use it for a little bit of balance support, right? So just with fingertips on the chair. And then what I want you to do is just these little circular motions with your one wrist, right? So your fingertips are holding onto the backrest of the chair for some balance. And you're just wiggling your fingers, circling the wrists, or the wrist in this case. And then we'll try it on the other side. So just fingertips support. And just this wave-like motion, just sort of this free-flowing arm movement and wrist movement, wiggling the fingers, just getting as much movement as you can into those wrist bones, the palm of the hand. And you might notice that one wrist feels a little looser than the other. And maybe just flicking the wrists up, down, moving in any position you can. And then just shaking out that hand. as vigorously as you can, kind of like shaking water off of it. And then try it on the other side, that quick shake, right? You're just releasing, sort of this rhythmic shaking. Bring the legs nice and wide, soften your knees. And now we'll come into a wide-legged releve. So in wide-legged releve, what you're going to do is stand back a little further and then lift your heels. Drop your heels. Lift the heels, drop the heels. So now let's bring both fingertips onto the backrest of the chair. So your legs are about as wide as your chair. And you're just lifting the heels, dropping the heels. So you're coming into this barefoot calf raise for 5, 4, 3. Feel the pillar engage, that anchor. And now we'll take a foot onto the seat of the chair. So we'll just come standing beside our chair. We'll hold on with fingertips and just bring the foot that's closest to the chair onto the seat pan. And now we'll just practice opening up the heart center, right? So what I want you to do is reach across this knee, like you're holding onto the backrest with both hands. And then this hand that's reaching furthest away, we're going to rainbow it up, right? So we're gonna rainbow it right over our head and then reach it back. And then as you reach back, start to notice how your inner thigh wants to open up, right? So it becomes lengthened while you're reaching the opposite arm back. And so just lift through the top of the head. Breathing in, breathing out. And feel the activity in this standing hip, right? So I want you to squeeze this glute, right? So feel this glute squeezing into this lifted inner thigh so that there's an activity in that standing leg. And now we'll rainbow the arm back. Let's do a reach across. And now holding on to either your outer knee or the backrest of the chair, let's twist in the opposite direction, right? So we're gonna rainbow this back arm and reach it back. Now I have a wall close to me, so I'm just going to use it to prop my fingertips onto it, but I'm not going to rely on it too heavily. I want to focus mainly on this standing leg, outer hip, just kind of squeezing into center line, right? So let that be your focus, the hip squeezing into center line while you look back and unravel any and all resistance or stiffness from the space between the shoulder blades especially. Let the jaw drop, let the face relax as you exhale. And then we'll circle this arm back. So now we get to switch legs. So I'm going to turn to face the opposite direction in order to have the leg that's closest to the chair propped up. So my foot lands on the seat pan, but it's just resting there lightly. And now we'll inhale both arms up. I'm just going to twist across here and then get ready to rainbow this arm up and back, right? So you'll notice how it automatically brings me into a bit of a side crane, right? So as I'm reaching back, this inner thigh wants to open up right away. And this bottom foot wanted to turn to find some balance, right? So just notice how this bottom leg or this supporting leg wants to alter its position in order to accommodate this rainbow opening, right? Where we open here, soften the standing knee, just squeeze this outer hip in towards this inner thigh and breathe. Just opening up the chest and the arm, right? So pull this arm back a few times, just feeling a little squeezing in the back of that shoulder. And also noticing this openness that we're creating in the groin and the inner thighs, using our chair for support. And I will circle back. I'll drop down through both hands. I'm just going to reposition that bottom foot so that it comes right under my knee and my hip. And then taking the opposite position, right? So we'll take the back hand now, the one that was dormant, and circle back. Right, that rainbow arm back. So this hand can stay on the chair or on your leg. And just lift through the top of the head. Let this hip be your focus, right? So you're going to squeeze this outer hip in towards the opposite hip as we look back and breathe. So nice rotation through the shoulder blades. Almost feeling like your spine is like a wet towel that you're wringing out, right from the root to the brow or to the top of the head. Receive one more full breath as you reach through this arm. And then carefully return. We'll just let ourselves fold forward for a moment, relaxing the spine. And I will gently take this foot off the seat pan of the chair. So now let's try a few warrior postures standing behind the chair. So I'll just turn my chair now and set it to the side just so you can see what's happening on the side view. So we're going to first come into chair pose. We're going to bring the feet about chair width apart and just lightly touching the backrest of your chair. I want you to sit back into an imaginary chair. Pause here. Use this backrest for a support for your hands just for a couple of breaths. Feel your toes lifting so you're activating your hamstrings and your back legs in your seat. And now we're just going to flip the palms up and let go of the support of the chair now. So notice what happens as soon as you do that. So let's try that again. The hands are resting. We're sitting back into this imaginary chair behind us. And then all of a sudden we're going to lift the arms and flip the palms up. So right away, I notice a core activation, right? So my upper abdominals turned on right away as soon as I let go of the support of the chair. And then try it again with that same awareness, right? So sit back maybe a little deeper. Feel the anchor activated, right? So you're button snapping those first 3 press points, and then we flip the palms up and just let go of the chair. Keep your weight as equal as you can from foot to foot. Keep those toes lifted. And then carefully lifting ourselves up into high mountain. So now moving into warrior 1 and 2. So we'll just bring our right foot forward, our left foot back, bending both knees. And so this is our warrior 1 position now, using the backrest of the chair for some balance, right? So find your roots deep through your feet, lift your arms, and now see if you can pivot into warrior 2, just by turning your back leg. Inch the back foot out a little further so that your legs are further apart. And now just touch the chair lightly with this hand for support. So we can now move right into right angle posture. So we're going to bend this elbow and just create a nice long diagonal line from this top hand to the outer bottom foot. And if you wanted, you could come into what we call extended right angle, where we now rest the armpit on the top rest of the chair, the back rest of the chair, and then send both arms forward, just going a little deeper into the hips now. And now we'll inhale our way up, relax the arms, and try the exact same thing on the other side. So we'll begin with warrior 1, with the other leg leading now, right? So we'll take the left foot forward, the right foot back, bending the front knee ever so slightly, squaring the hips towards that backrest or the whole chair. Just resting fingertips here, finding your equanimity from foot to foot. Lift through the top of your head, and then carefully opening up that back leg. So the stance is much more narrow in a warrior 1. So what I want you to do is toe ball heel your back foot out. So you're coming now into this longer legged version. Maybe slide your chair a little further forward so that your legs can go further apart. And just start to come into this wrist exercise on this side, just for a few repetitions. Fingers up, fingers down. Just feel the mobility in your wrists. And now touching the chair, backrest, getting ready to come into that right angle, right? So you're just gonna let this elbow bend. You're only touching the chair lightly with a few fingers, and then long diagonal line. So as soon as this arm comes over your head, you're gonna push a little more deeply into the outer edge of that back foot, right? And breathe. Let go of the chair for a moment, notice what happens. And now we'll rely on the chair a little bit more by resting our tricep back of the arm on the top of that backrest. Just going deeper into the side body in our right angle, extended right angle variation here. Hopefully feeling a whole lot of release from the spine on this top side. And then inhaling ourselves back up, relaxing the arms. Let's step this back leg in. And now high mountain, just let the arms float up. And then circle back. Let's clasp the hands together, open the chest. So So we're going to come sitting onto our chair once again, and we'll just practice a seat hover to a lift, seat hover to a lift, and we'll practice that 3 times. So bring your chair behind you slightly now. The hands can rest on the sacrum, just one hand over the other. Your feet are about 1 fist width apart. And all I want you to do is imagine you're going to sit in the chair, but then you decide, no, I'm going to come right back up. We're going to do that 2 more times, right? So you're just hovering above the seat like you're about to sit down, but then you decide, I think I'm going to come standing again. So try it one last time. I want you to pause here now, and I want you to reach back for that backrest. So even if your fingers aren't touching your backrest, your arms are going in that direction, so you can feel that deep squeeze between the shoulder blades again. Lift your toes. Take a long, deep breath. And now we can carefully have a seat. So we'll come back to that first exercise, right, where we're hanging onto the seat pan. Bring your sit bones to the front edge of your seat now, holding on to the back of the seat pan. Pull up with your fingertips. Pull and look up. You can even add a lion face mouth now. One last time. You're pulling up every time you lion face. Feel the collarbones widen, the shoulders get pulled back. Great way to bring blood flow to the neck, the shoulders, and the arms. So in this seated posture now, let's practice our ankle over the knee stretch. So we'll now take our left ankle, cross it over the knee. And if this feels too intense on the hips, feel free to just cross your ankles. Right? So you can cross your ankles and let your knees go wide. And just hold on to the back of the chair, right? So ankles crossed, knees are wide, and you're just feeling your balance from sit bone to sit bone. So you can always back it up to that instead of the full seated figure 4, or what I call seated pigeon. But if you're able to cross the ankle over the knee, let it happen. And now flex this foot. And now we'll add some lateral flexes, right? So with the leg resting on the opposite thigh, let's now take a twist into here, right? So we're going to rotate this hand to the outer knee and now laterally flex. Right? So we're just doing a side bend, being very aware of keeping our weight equal through those 2 sit bones, right? So every now and again, just do a little wiggle down and then engaging the anchor, right? So button snapping pubic bone to tailbone like a rain jacket. Low belly to sacrum, right? Where we had our hands here. And navel to the low back. And now let's see if we can twist back, right? I want you to turn to look back. Just let your arm rest on the backrest. You're still holding onto this outer knee for support so that you can leverage your twist, right? So you're just twisting a little further, turning the head first, right? So follow this hand with your eyes. Let your eyes track to this hand. And then carefully return. Let's do a little fold forward if the spine and the hip allows, right? Just staying in that figure 4 stretch a little longer to relax the hip and the outer thigh space that we just worked in those standing warriors. So now we can uncross and try the other side. So we'll lift this knee. Now, if this feels stiff here on the outer hip, then all you're going to do is slide this foot back down and just cross at your ankles. Let the knees drop open and still sit at the front edge of your seat so that you can lift the heart center, right? So this is more of an inner thigh, inner hip opener. Whereas if ankle comes over the knee with ease, we can pause here, right? Alexa, next track. So now we'll find that rotation again, right? So hopefully you're feeling a fair stretch here on the outer thigh, outer hip. We're gonna flex this foot, toes are gonna go up. And now wiggling equally through those sit bones, let's lift this opposite arm, hanging onto the outer knee, and then just looking back or forward, and maybe letting this arm come overhead now, right? So you're hanging on, you're wrapping this hand right around the outer knee, and you're just coming into this side bending figure 4 variation. Listen to your breath. And with each exhale, notice if you're creating contentment or if you're creating stress, strain, and a lot of discomfort. So just check in. So this inner contentment arises when we're present. You're here now with every and all physical sensation. You're here now with every and all thought, feeling, or emotion that pops up into your consciousness. And then we'll take this arm back, rest it on the backrest of the chair. My chair is fairly light, so you're going to notice that I'm tipping forward every now and again. And that's just a great reminder to sit back, right? So to find that equanimity again. And this foot here of the ankle that's crossed over should be flexed, right? Toes are up. You can relax if it starts to feel fatigued, but as much as you can, toes up. And just keep lifting through the top of the head, right? So as soon as we lift through the top of the head and our eyes track to look at this back hand, pulling the arm back, we start to notice this unraveling of our spine that starts right from our neck down to the tail. And just start to feel this shoulder blade here being pulled back, right? So this arm that's reaching, you're pulling the shoulder blade back to activate those posture muscles. And then gently returning. Let's take another long deep breath, and if the spine allows, you can lean forward now, just to extend the length of time spent relaxing this outer hip, right? So we'll continue to relax this outer hip. Breathing out. Breathing in. And so my hope with that one is that you started to feel a releasing through your lumbar spine too, right? That one's another benefit to the seated figure 4 or ankle over the knee variation. So now let's come into a little more vigor. So we'll come standing. We'll bring our chair to face forward again. And just make sure you've got lots of room behind you now. Right, so we're just going to use the backrest of the chair. We're going to take a few steps back to come into a nice relaxing forward bend. Right, so it becomes this half forward fold now. Spreading out our fingers, spreading out our toes, and just letting the head drop. And allow the tailbone and the sits bones to rise up towards the sky or the ceiling, softening your knees, right? Because you'll notice that when you let the sit bones and the tailbones rise up, that the knees will want to lock or straighten excessively. So we want to soften them, so that we rely on the muscles of the legs and not the ligaments and the soft tissues of the joints. So let's lift our head, just look at your hands, and now send one leg back. So you're going to send that leg back, and when that leg is lifted, I want you to feel the standing hip rolling open or back in a sense, right? So an externally rotated hip. The lifted back leg is now going to rotate inward to create a more challenging Virabhadrasana 3 or Warrior 3 position. And then carefully release it. Let's walk ourselves back. And so for the opposite side, I'll turn to the side so that you can see that a bit better. So hands on the backrest, walking back just to that half folding position. And so once we're in that half folding position, we find our balance right through that next standing leg. So I'm just going to slide this leg up and back now to find that long lengthened Warrior 3 position. So the hip flexor of the standing leg gets pulled back slightly or outwardly rotated. This lifted thigh bone now gets rolled in. Hi, Benji. And now find the breath. Big breath. And then carefully returning. So let's try our pyramid right away. So the back leg that was lifted now comes forward, and now we're going to try our pyramid half fold, right? So find your half pyramid fold, soften your knees, you're using the chair for support, and I want you to open up the arms to the side so that there's no chair support, so you can feel the stability through both ankles now in this pyramid. And then we'll inhale ourselves back up, we'll clasp the hands together and heart lift. So let's try it on the other side. So we'll right away come into that half fold, right? So we'll step the feet back, half forward fold using the chair for support. Let's lift the opposite leg back now. rotating the thigh bone downward or in, while the standing hip gets rotated open and back, right? So it just helps to create space through the low back sacrum area. And I will bring that lifted leg forward to come into pyramid on this side now, right? So we'll inhale the arms up. Let's gently support with a few fingertips on the backrest of the chair, and then pause here. And imagine you're stretching the floor apart between the front foot and the back foot, and then open up the arms. Feel the abdominal wall engage right away as soon as you let go of the chair support, and breathe. And then we'll carefully come up, clasp the hands together, heart lift, back. And now we're ready to come into a few pliés now. So in the plié, you'll just touch the backrest of your chair. You're going to bring the heels together and the feet only 1 fist space apart. And we're just going to come into this little knee bend and lift. And every time you lift the legs together, I want you to powerfully squeeze the backside and the inner thighs. And just one more time like that, and now we'll releve. We're going to lift the heels, drop the heels. So if you want, you can draw this little circle in front of you and behind you, but you're going to notice no movement in the spine, right? All this movement is just coming through the ankle and the foot. And just an easy swinging of the arms, just to help the arms relax. And now let's hold the releve lift. So let's just hold the heels up nice and high. Take a big breath, and if you want to hang on to the back of your chair, you can. And now reach this arm back. And now try the other arm. So we're just going to keep those heels lifted as we do these little rotations with our upper back, reaching back. Alternating sides. And now we'll come back to using the chair for some support. Let's use the seat pan and the backrest. Let's just prop the 1 foot up again, just like we did before. And now I want you to extend your leg, right? So that maybe the back of the Achilles is touching the chair. And now hold this arm up for support and just lift this leg. So we're now using the chair for an assisted full leg crane. One more time. And then we can dive over this leg, right? So now opening up the hamstring with support, both hands on the chair, soften the standing knee, and receive one more full breath. Let's carefully switch sides. So I'm just going to flip my chair around so the other leg now can be supported. So lightly placing the palm of the foot on the seat. Let's lift through the top of the head, soften the standing knee, and then extending the leg. So again, the back of the leg or the Achilles is just lightly touching the seat. And I will hold this arm up for some balance. Fingertips are on the backrest. Lift. So when the leg lifts, nothing else moves. And then we relax it, right? So focus on keeping your spine stable and straight and using the anchor, right? Those lower 3 press points to activate the abdominals, otherwise known as stopping urine flow. Lift, breathe. Feel the quad pulling the kneecap up to strengthen the knee. And then release her to bring more support to the knee. We'll do that one more time. So just 3 repetitions. Pause when you lift, and hopefully you'll feel a shaking happening. Breathe. Use the Pilates breath or the yoga breath. And also notice this standing hip doing a fair amount of work too, right? Let's inhale the arms up. Let's dive over this leg using the chair for support. And the moment we tuck our chin, it allows the lumbar spine to lengthen a little bit deeper. Soften the standing knee and breathe. Spread out the toes of both feet. And then carefully coming back up. So let's come back to seated again. And I will practice a few more seated positions. So let's come back to the seat pan one, right? Fingertips right under the seat pan. And just lifting the heart center now, right? So you're pulling up onto the back of the seat pan. Add your lion face if you'd like. Releasing stress and anxiousness from the face. And one last time. Remember to pull up on the seat, but keep the elbows straight. So we feel this elevation of the whole shoulder girdle, right? To just bring a whole lot of blood flow to the neck and the upper back. So now let's try that quad exercise in this seated position, right? So we're still sitting at the front edge of our seat. And now see if you can extend your leg, just like what we did standing. And then let it relax, and then come to the other leg right away. So it becomes this seated version of crane to strengthen the front thighs. So just an alternate knee extension, but focus on not letting the spine move. Breathing out, breathing in. One more on each leg. Excellent way to bring stability to knees. Okay, so let's open up our wrists, right? So we'll interlace our fingers, press them at chest height forward, lift them overhead, and then gently release. So make sure you've got equal weight from sit bone to sit bone right at the front edge of your seat. Let's interlace those fingers right at the low belly. Inhale right up to the throat. Exhale, press in front so you wing those shoulder blades apart now. And then all the way up and back down. Let's try that one more time just to help release the wrists, the hands, and the shoulders. Inhale from the navel to the throat. Exhale, right back down to the pelvis and the navel. Let's press forward at the heart and just dive forward. So from the side view, it looks like this, right? We're just winging those shoulder blades apart, coming into a flexed forward spine. And then a lift and release. So let's come into our seated meditation now. So just staying in your chair. Let's keep the feet flat on the floor. And if you want now, you can wiggle your hips back to the backrests of the chair now. And we'll just pause there for a few moments with the palms up. And so we'll use now a waterfall breath. So I want you to scan right from your toes to your head, any area in your physical body that feels hot, tense, or painful right now. And so any area that feels hot, painful, or tense, I want you to zone in on that space, right? So from your internal awareness, you're just shining the light of your awareness on that area of the physical body. And when you inhale, I want you to imagine that a cold waterfall now is pouring into that space of pain, tension, or heat. And then when you exhale, you just start to feel your feet, your backside and your back sinking a little deeper into that chair. So inhale, sending that cool, cold waterfall into that painful, tense, or hot space. And then when you exhale, allow the chair to fully support you. Feel the connection points between your body and the chair. And just one more time, visualize that cold waterfall pouring right into the painful, hot, or tight space, or spaces in the physical body. And then when you exhale, you can just feel the body relaxing into the support of the chair. So we'll come into one last seated twist before we come into a closing meditation. So just come to the edge of the seat again, just one more time. Just shimmy the sit bones right to the front edge of the seat. Let's squeeze the inner thighs powerfully together now, like we're about to come up into a chair pose. Let's inhale the right arm all the way up. And now just see if your elbow can come to the outer thigh. And if it's a struggle to get the elbow to the outer thigh, just use the hand, right? So you can get the hand to the outer thigh and then let this arm reach back, right? So we're gonna twist the spine one last time, unraveling any and all tension right from the head to the tail. And just use your ujjayi breath now, right? Creating that ha sound at the back of the throat with the mouth closed, tongue is dropped, nostril flare. And then gently switching sides, right? So we'll inhale both arms up. Deep squeeze between your inner thighs, right? So powerfully squeeze those inner thighs together. And then twisting towards that opposite outer thigh, either using the hand or the elbow to come into a twist. And then looking back letting this arm rest. So take a peek at your knees. Make sure they have not scissored apart, right? They stay together. And then focus on lifting the top of the head while you continue to squeeze those inner thigh muscles together. And now feel this arm being pulled back to activate those muscles right inside the inner ridge of that shoulder blade just one more time. Carefully coming back to center. Let's now cross our hands on the outer sides of the thighs, just like this, right? So I want you to cross the hands on the outer sides of the thighs now and just start to fold, right? So let your chin drop, let your spine flex, very much like doing a child's pose or a cat stretch. And now let the knees come apart slightly so that you create a deeper stretch between the upper back and the shoulder blades. And just notice which arm is over the other. Right now I've got my left over my right. Carefully bring the knees back together. Open up the arms and just switch the arm cross, right? So opposite hand over the other. Take a big deep breath. And then as you exhale, just start to flex your spine, dropping your chin, holding on maybe just a little tighter onto the outer thighs now so that they can press apart just to the point where you're feeling a deeper stretch now across backs of the shoulders, the middle and the lower back. Listen to your breath. So feel free to remain in your chair or take the time now to come lying on your back into Shavasana, or even just sitting on the floor if you have a cushion or a block to support you, but feel free to stay in the chair. And if you do choose to stay in the chair, I want you to shimmy the sit bones right to the front edge for our closing meditation. So the mantra we can start with in our closing meditation is here, now. So tapping into that deep presence is what brings contentment, true satisfaction. So when all the circumstances external from you are not going the way you planned or expected or thought they should go, notice if you become angry, sad, or depressed. And start to cultivate this presence of being where you are at any given moment, knowing that that presence is what brings you contentment, not external events or circumstances. So if you think about an activity that you thoroughly enjoy, say, for example, you love to play golf or soccer, or you want to take up surfing or skiing, what most people believe is that it's the event itself that is bringing them contentment. However, it's the presence and the focus of being one with that activity that is what creates that contentment. So we can be one with any and all activity at any given moment. So be with your breath right here, right now. As you inhale and exhale, let the tongue drop. Let all tension spill out into the earth with each exhale. And on your next inhale, see if you can feel the breath rising up to connect into the third eye space, right? So the space of inner knowing or intuition. And then when you exhale, watch that breath drop its way back down to your tailbone or to your feet. And just one more time, just visualize the inflowing breath coming up to awaken that inner knowing or intuition. And then when you exhale, watch the breath fall right back down to your feet. And remember your mantra, here, now. If you're falling easily into the gaps, pauses, and spaces between your breaths, between your thoughts, between your feelings, between your emotions, stay here a little longer to experience present moment engagement. I thank you for being here now. Namaste.